Hi there, and thank you so much for joining the Paula Fiscal Show. We have today a special guest that I will call the Millennial Mason. Eric Sadler, who is the Junior Warden of the Golden Gate Speranza Lodge number 30 in San Francisco, is going to share with our viewers some of the activities that you can participate in as a non-Mason, and also share with you some of the activities that they do as Masons. So we want to thank you for joining the show. This show airs on Sundays at 3 o'clock p.m. on Channel 29. We also upload it to YouTube, and you can take a look at the Millennial Mason Eric Sadler show that is being taped today. We also have Instagram and a Twitter account, which is Paula Fiscal TV, and a Facebook page, Paula Fiscal Show. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we want to welcome Eric Sadler, the Junior Warden of the Golden Gate Speranza. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. We air and on Sundays at 3 o'clock p.m. So we want to welcome you to our format. We cover news and government and politics and entertainment.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So, Eric, can you give us a background of how it is that you started with the Masons?
Yeah, absolutely. The first ever real idea of Masonry came when I was a kid. I was about 10 years old, and I was watching The Man Who Would Be King, the old movie with Michael Caine and Sean Connery. And in that movie, they actually have a moment where Michael Caine returns a Masonic square and compass to the man who plays Rudyard Kipling there. And I remember asking my dad at the time, what is that? You know, who are they? And my dad said, oh, well, they're Masons, and it's a group of guys who get together and do stuff and all that. And this was before any of us were Masons, in fact. And I just always kept that with me ever since then. And it wasn't until I was about 15, 16, and I just was really curious about what Freemasonry is, about what is philosophy, what is, science.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Can you tell our audience exactly what you have to do to become a Mason?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two main requirements that you have to pass in order to become a Mason. The first one is that you have to believe in some form of a supreme being. Now, that is up to your interpretation. We never ask what that is. We never ask a follow-up question saying, well, what's your religion? We never do. The other one is you have to believe in some form of an afterlife, whether that is a Hindu idea of reincarnation, whether that is more of the Abrahamic idea of an afterlife. We, again, never ask. It's completely up to you. And once you pass those two requirements, then you send an application. You get investigated by some members of the lodge.
An investigation?
Yes.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of more of a, it can be formal or it can be informal. Depends on who you get, really, as your investigators.
Oh, in other words, they just meet with you and talk with you.
Absolutely.
They come to your home.
Yes.
And take a look at what kind of hors d'oeuvres you serve them.
Not necessarily, although that might factor in. It's mainly just why you want to become a Mason. What have you heard? And really, is this a good fit?
And can you tell us how many Masons are there in San Francisco?
There's about 3,000 Masons in San Francisco. There's about 30 lodges in the city, and roughly at about 100 members per lodge, it's about 3,000.
And how many Masons in the state of California?
About 53,000 in 2015.
And the United States?
Over a million.
So there are over 1 million members in Freemasonry in the United States.
Yes.
Now, can you tell us a bit about the activities that Masons are involved in, particularly the charitable events?
Yes, absolutely. So some of the main tenets of Freemasonry are the ideas of brotherly love, relief, and truth. And relief is really the big one. with the charitable organizations. So Shriners are Masonic affiliates. So anytime you see a Shriners Hospital or a Shriners TV commercial, those are Masons doing charitable work for healthcare. Public education is tremendously huge for Masons as well. So scholarships, millions of dollars each year are given to people to further their education.
And this is in the field of nursing and also education, so that you don't need to be a Mason to participate in the scholarship program. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So there are some scholarships that are just for members and their families, but the vast majority of them are open to anybody who wants to further their education.
And the way to get that information is how?
Freemason.org is really the hub for California Freemasonry. Each state has their own individual Grand Lodge, and in California, Freemason.org is really the place to go if you want to get up-to-date information on scholarship programs and what events are going on within the lodge.
And just recently, there was an international conference that took place right here in San Francisco, where we had a lot of people coming in from France, from Europe, from the Philippines. Somebody even came in from the Bahamas, I believe. And so then that's an annual event that's held somewhere all over the world?
It's typically held usually somewhere around the world. We were fortunate in this year that it was held in San Francisco, and it's really, especially that event, was a collection of all of kind of Masonic philosophies and ideas together and debated and presented. And it happens annually throughout the world.
So then, are you Democrats? Are you Republicans? Are you Green Party? How are you politically affiliated?
Freemasonry actually does not have a political affiliation. They are very, very strongly against political affiliations. In fact, the two things we don't talk about in the lodge are religion and politics.
Wait a minute. There's a ban on talking about religion and politics?
Well, the two things that divide people more really are religion and politics. And as an organization that wants unity and understanding with their members and with their communities, really religion and politics don't mix well with trying to create a cohesive whole.
So then, well, people will have to just talk about the menu of the dinners and the state of dinners and things?
Not necessarily. A lot of the time, most of the talk deals with philosophy, with dealing with these lessons that we're taught in these ceremonies, and how do we apply them to our lives as Masons and to the community as well. So a lot of the talk goes into that.
So then the whole process of becoming a Mason, you need to get initiated like a fraternity?
Yes, it is a fraternity of men, a fraternity of really ages anywhere from 18 to however old you can be. It is a fraternity. However, it's not one of the stereotypical fraternities you would see, like John Belushi with a toga, going around and stuff. It's not like that. It's more it's much more refined.
Well, it's not a Greek fraternity. No. How old is Masonry?
Well, officially, Masonry started in England in 1717. That's when 4 lodges combined together to create the Grand Lodge of England. And ever since then, that's been the official mark.
So where did they get this idea? Where did it come from?
Oh, from fraternities?
Right. Or from, how did it occur to them that they were going to become a lodge and they were going to get together and start this?
Yeah, definitely. It actually comes from the stonemasons guilds of the Middle Ages. And so the Middle Ages, when you have the Gothic buildings like Notre Dame and all of those famous buildings from that time period, they were very closely guarded secrets on how you built them, the geometry involved and the math. And so men and artisans got together, traded these secrets, and then over time, that what we call operative masonry gave way to what is today called speculative masonry, which is what I was talking about earlier with how do we use these tools, which are architectural, away from their operative use into more of a philosophical use for ourselves and the community.
So that defines it a little bit better. In other words, the word Mason is no longer just applied to the members that are real Masons, so to speak, or carpenters, but in the old days, that's what it was.
Yes, absolutely. In the old days, they were stonemasons.
They were all stonemasons, and now then it's called operative if you're actually a contractor or a carpenter or a mason. then otherwise you're a speculative Mason.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
so you, Eric, you're a junior warden for the Golden Gate Speranza. And can you tell us a bit of the process that you go through to become a Mason and then an elected officer?
Yeah. So after you fill out your application, you turn it into the lodge. The lodge will then investigate you, and then if it's a favorable investigation, then you will receive your what's called the first degree of masonry, which is called entered apprentice. Again, going back to that stonemasons guild idea. You then do what's called a proficiency, which is you memorize certain parts of the ceremony, and then afterwards you then get passed to the second degree of masonry, which is called fellowcraft. Again, going back to the stones guilds, and then same process. You learn your proficiency, and then you become a master mason. And then after that, and you do your proficiency, you are eligible to become an elected officer, really at that point.
And how long does that take? Say someone wants to begin participating. Does it take a year? Does it take a month? How long is the process?
Traditionally, in order to become what's called the junior steward, which is the lowest level of elected office, to the master, it traditionally took 7 years. However, that changes over time. But that is also a callback to the Stones Guild Masons because it took 7 years to go to each level as well.
Aha, so it's totally related to the old days.
Yes.
But these are the new days now.
Yes. Yes.
So, and you're our millennial Mason here.
Yes.
So is that going to shorten the whole process?
I personally have never known anyone who took 7 years to go from there to the other place. It typically is what the lodge needs, the aptitude of the person that is going through. Some of them really like to memorize, and some of them really like to do the work. And so they'll naturally progress faster. They might, we will have the ceremony or degree. They know this part, they love this part, they'll go do the part, and then all of a sudden they're, the junior deacon or the senior deacon for the year.
And then you just said it. For anyone that wants to be an orator or an actor, mm-hmm. because you'd have to memorize your lines.
Yes. There's quite a bit of memorization that is involved with Freemasonry.
And so when somebody becomes a Mason, it offers a family closeness, it offers a social network. What are some of the other benefits?
Well, some of the main benefits, especially for younger people, are mainly the idea that you are supported in whatever you would like to do, whether that is education, if you have a strong passion for educating people, or you have a strong passion for public education in America, or if you have a passion for healthcare. Really, as a young person, you will find support 100%, even though it's not a political organization, like what we mentioned earlier. You will find support 100% if that is what you choose to do, and it's very, very empowering, especially as a young person.
So you're talking about career enhancement.
Absolutely career enhancement. And another thing you also get as well is you get a wide, diverse range of opinions and ages in one meeting. I'm typically the youngest. I'm 25, but there are people there who are 30, 40, 70, 80, 90, and you get all of these ranges of opinions, all of this range of experience, and it really is trying to understand, who is this person, why is this person here, and bringing that into a career is invaluable.
And there are also events throughout the year that you sponsor and you hold and you become part of. And wasn't there a 50-year ceremony recently?
Yes. Masonry likes to recognize 25 years and 50 years, and then 75 years as a member. And the 50-year ceremony is particularly poignant because it really celebrates the individual Mason and their almost half a century of work that they do for themselves, for their families, for their wives, or their partners, or the community in general.
And so being part of the Masons then is actually like an extended family mm-hmm. environment?
Yes, absolutely. Being part of Masonry is really a support network, is really a family, and that extends beyond the immediate as well. All Freemasons have a place in Masonic homes, which is in Union City, down south, I believe, if I'm my bearings correctly. And they also have a funeral plot, which I know is a little macabre, but one of the main focuses of Freemasonry is that Freemasons take care of their families and their friends, and you will have proper burial, you will have a proper old age through the Freemasons.
And you also take care of the widows.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if you were going to recommend someone begin to get interested in Masonry, what would you suggest?
I think my first thing I would say if someone was interested in becoming a Freemason would be to read, would be to research. Online is a dangerous trap because, as you know, Freemasonry is very, very, I guess, synonymous with conspiracy theories. Unfortunately.
Well, there are a few myths about being a Mason.
Yes.
We could go over a couple of those myths, but we had the Worshipful Master on one of our shows. So if you are interested in listening to some of those myths, we did have Millennial Eric Mason, or Millennial Eric Sadler's father on here, and he's the Worshipful Master. And that was Ed Sadler. So you can look that up on YouTube to listen to a couple of those myths, because, as I said, they are myths,
Yes.
right?
Yes, thank you.
Of course, there are lots of interesting activities that you participate in, and you also write for the Trestle. So I wanted you to maybe go over a bit of the activities that are happening in March.
Yeah, absolutely. So each month, our lodge and most Masonic lodges have a pretty full docket for what they do. Each lodge has a day that they meet. Ours is Tuesday night. And so for March, we have a free practice where people who are doing their ceremonies or their proficiencies can get together and practice. And they can have someone who can listen to them, correct them, and all of that. We then have a game night, which we're doing some bingo. Also for Celebrate St. Patrick's Day, which is a community event, and it involves many of the wives, many widows, many members, and it should be a fun time.
And you also had a Super Bowl day.
Yes, we did. We had a Super Bowl party. That was, again, all of the lodges in what's called a district. So we divide San Francisco up into different districts. So all the lodges in that district came together for that.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's talk a little bit more about the scholarships that are available for the public.
Okay. So if you are a person, or if you know someone who wants to further their education, whether that is nursing, whether that is in the trades, whether that is in philosophy or medicine or anything, you can write to really any local Masonic lodge and ask them, do they have a scholarship program? We have a scholarship program at Golden Gate Speranza. It gives out thousands of dollars each year for people that have demonstrated that they would like to continue their education. And it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be California. It can be New York. It can be Georgia. It can be in Canada. It can be anywhere, really. And thousands of dollars are given almost every day by Freemasonry for education.
And particularly interesting, to me at least, is the scholarships that are available for nursing. And it needs to be in a particular field, though, I had understood. Is that still accurate, that it has to be an oncology nurse?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So for those of you that are interested in nursing, there are scholarships then available for you. You need to just log on to
Freemason.org.
Freemason.org. And the Golden Gate Speranza also has a Facebook page.
Yes.
So you can log on to the Facebook page and get more information.
Absolutely.
And get a look at some of the events. And so let's talk again about the process of becoming a Mason and how you started and how you get to the second levels and the third levels. How many levels are there?
There are 3. What's called Blue Lodge Masonry, which is when we say lodge or active lodge, that's really what we mean. It's 3 degrees. So you have your first degree, your second degree, and your third degree.
So Ernest Borgnine is a Mason.
Mm-hmm.
And what degree is he?
Ernest Borgnine, if I remember right, he was a 33rd degree.
33rd degree.
So that is a separate branch of Freemasonry. Once you get your 3rd degree and you become a Master Mason, you are eligible to join bunch of other different areas. You can do what's called York Rite or Scottish Rite. I'm more familiar with the York Rite because I went through that area, but Scottish Rite here in San Francisco is very big. In fact, it's right on 19th Avenue. 19th Avenue in Sloat, I believe, is where the Scottish Rite Center is. So here in San Francisco, Scottish Rite has a very big presence.
And the Scottish Rite then meaning that that's a different organization, it's part of the organization, or it's how is that explained?
So they're all part of Freemasonry. Freemasonry as a whole is all of that, and that includes all of the other things like Eastern Star for the women and Job's Daughters and Rainbow Girls for younger girls. Scottish Rite gets its name from the fact that some of its ritual, some of its ceremonies, comes from Scotland, and then York Rite is named because of some of the ceremonies and rituals come from York, England, and so they use those traditional terms. Whether or not that's true, scholars are still debating, but that's the tradition of those names.
And the Scottish Rite organization, don't they wear different uniforms and things like that?
Yeah, they do. They have a little bit different vestment, and they sometimes have some hats as well.
Yes.
And they're the ones who do the 32nd degree, and then if you are elected to receive the 33rd degree, it's a very honorable thing. It's only 33rd degree Masons vote on other 33rd degrees. So it's a very, very prestigious.
And how many of those are there? Do we know?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not familiar.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
Okay.
I'm not a 33rd degree Mason. I don't know.
It's only a
Yeah.
secret. So
Exactly.
that's one of the myths, is that it's a very secretive organization, and yet it isn't.
No. If it's not, if it is a secret organization, we have not been doing a very good job because you've heard of us. Pretty much, the secrets are all out there. If you really wanted to know, and I've seen it as well on the internet, you can go and find it. However, when we tell people who apply to our lodge, you can go and see all of the ceremonies. However, we advise you to not because we want to keep it secret, but because we want it to be memorable and meaningful to the people going through those degrees. So you can, if you want, see everything. However, it's really up to the individual Mason how much they like to keep secret and how much they don't. We have some things that must remain secret, but other than that, it's really up to the individual Mason.
So, for example, then, that myth about how when you get initiated, you have to walk around with a goat, that's a myth.
Yes, that is a myth. In fact, I remember actually for my first degree, some of the people who were involved gave me a little toy goat. Just for fun. Yeah. So that was that. Yeah.
So that's good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, can you share with our viewers one of your most memorable events that you've had as a Millennial Mason?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably one of the most memorable events I've had has been actually our 50-year pin that we just recently did, only a few days ago, in fact. And it was a very moving ceremony for everyone involved, especially the person who got the 50-year pin, Brother Rich Schmidt. It really meant something to him, and it really meant something to his wife, and it meant something different to everyone in that lodge, and it was very, very moving. There was poems that were read, there was a biography of his life that was read, and it really is almost as if it was a time capsule back to 1966 when he became a Mason. And you really see someone's life in that sense from beginning all the way until now. It was very, very poignant and very, very monumental for me.
And I understand also that he was part of actually 3 lodges that were merged into the Golden Gate Speranza.
Yes. Lodges periodically over time, their membership swells and then sometimes it declines. And when lodge membership declines enough that they can't function really to run their meetings once a month or can't really meet otherwise, then they do what's called consolidation and they move into another lodge. And usually that other lodge is very respectful, and sometimes they'll take a name of that lodge as a reminder, such as Petaluma Hamilton in Petaluma.
I see. And so overall, how has this affected your career and your family life, and in particular, how does this affect your relationship with other people that are not Masons?
Yes. So Masonry, in fact, freemason.org sends you a magazine every month, if you remember, right here, which is right here. It's Freemason. This is the one from, actually the most recent one. This is February, March. And the one last month was about the art of being a gentleman, which was a very interesting article. And more or less, how Masonry has affected me is it has put a spotlight on my actions as an example for others, whether they are family members, whether they are friends, or really whether they're just people I meet on the street. The idea that you are an example, or that you should be an example, is a very, very powerful tool to really try to put into practice some of the lessons that were taught in our ceremonies, but also some of the lessons that are strengthened through a Masonic lens. If you have a strong religious background, Masonic lens can come in and magnify certain aspects of it, and it can make you a stronger religious person, or it can make you a stronger spiritual person, or it can make you a stronger Mason just in general.
So then you would say that this has improved your life on Earth here?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that Masonry has allowed me to think about who I am as a person, how I relate to other people. When someone says something, what do they mean? What do I mean when I say something? Am I speaking idly? Am I speaking with a point? Am I speaking with a purpose? And Masonry really has honed in on that for me.
So it has served as a training ground then, more or less, for you to learn more about life, and it has enhanced your career and your longevity here in San Francisco.
Yes, absolutely. One thing that Masonry is to some people is a social club. It's kind of a boys' club, and certainly for some people it is, but also for some people it really is a training ground for what they want to get, what they want to work on. They might have a weakness, for example, public speaking, or they might have a weakness in...
A weakness? That's a strength.
Yes.
Speaking of strengths, we need to wrap up our program. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Eric Sadler, the Junior Warden of the Golden Gate Speranza Lodge 30. And if you're interested more in Masonry, you can log on and take a look at their Facebook page, and also mason.org for the state organization. And once again, thank you for joining us. We will be aired live on, well, not live, this is the taping, but we will air on Sundays, Channel 29 at 3 o'clock p.m. And we want to give a shout out and thanks to our sponsors. This would be Gypsy Rosalie's Wigs and Vintage, 1222 Sutter Street, SFID General Contractor, Pat Lakey, and I also want to thank some of the people that have come out to the events to sponsor my program, the Paula Fiscal Show, and once again we cover news, government, and politics, of course. So please send us your emails and your Twitters. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.